Hello there, guys, and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today with us, guys, we've got Michael Ostrovsky, co-founder and chief scientist at Topsort and the professor of economics at Stanford GSB. Michael, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Michael, first of all, nice weather. Are you in San Francisco at the moment?
Oh, I'm in the suburbs of San Francisco. I'm in Emerald Hills. It's about half an hour south of San Francisco.
Very nice, very nice. I'm very jealous. We got thunder today, so I'd much rather be your side. Michael, before we get started, what I want to do, I just want to get to know you a little bit better. So tell me, please, what is one thing about you which not many people would know about you? What is it, one fact?
Yes, one thing that's top of my mind right now is that I have 3 kids and with a big gap between them. My oldest one is 14, almost 15, and then I have one who is, not even a year old yet, and not old. So it's quite a bit of a gap, and that makes everything fun. And then I have one in the middle too. So
okay, that's very interesting. What I'm going to do, I'm going to throw a few rapid fire questions at you, and if you answer yes or no, one word answers for me. So, morning person?
No, definitely not. Night owl.
Nice. Work-life balance, is it important to you?
It is important. It's very hard. You always have to. I just started out by saying I have 3 kids and 2 jobs, so it's something that's very hard to achieve. But I'm trying my best.
Nice. Hands-on leader.
I'm happy to delegate. Actually, sometimes I like to go into nitty-gritty details so I can zoom in as deep as possible, but I'm also happy to let people do their own thing.
Nice. What would your staff say your best skill is?
I think probably clarity and the ability to reduce complicated issues to something that looks almost obvious. I think that's probably, what I think. What I've heard from several ones of them, actually.
Do you agree?
Probably. I try to. Yeah, I try to.
Okay. Tell me, what is the worst skill or worst kind of habit you would say your co-founders would say you have?
Being interested in way too many things at the same time. That would probably be...
You're the idea guy.
Trying to... too many things.
Good. Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit later. And last one, are you happy with this year's success?
Yeah, incredibly happy. We're doing really well. We can talk more about this. Most of the startups around us have got hit quite heavily by the macro conditions, but for us, it was actually positive. We're one of the rare startups that benefited from it. And I'm happy to talk more about this as we dive.
Definitely will. I've seen all of the success you've been doing after researching your company. So tell me, let's start right from the beginning, just so the audience knows. Give us in a couple of sentences, what is it that you actually do at Topsort?
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of a background on Topsort. Company actually came to a large degree from my academic research and consulting experience. So, at Stanford, I teach economics, game theory, auction theory, and marketplaces. And back in graduate school, almost 2 decades ago, I started working on this new thing that at the time was tiny but growing fast, called advertising auctions, where advertisers would bid on websites like Yahoo or Google to get, when you were searching for plane tickets, airline companies could compete, or hotels, or what have you. And obviously by now this has become a, $1 trillion business with companies like Google. It's still, a majority of their profits, vast majority of their profits. And I've been consulting on this topic for this almost the same 2 decades, because when it started, very few people knew anything about this. I worked with Pinterest, I worked with Google, worked with Yahoo, worked with LinkedIn, so with a bunch of them. And a couple of things happened about 3-4 years ago. One was that I realized that it just doesn't scale. Like, consulting doesn't scale. I can't make 10 copies of myself to help all these companies, and it was sort of getting tiring to try to fix all the same mistakes that many of these marketplaces were making. And I was thinking, maybe it would be nice to do something like this from scratch and offer it as a product. And another thing that was happening is I started noticing that Amazon started making more and more and more money, among others, from advertising. So, people know that AWS is a very important and profitable part of Amazon, but advertising has become much more profitable than that. Last year, they made $40 billion from that. And the idea, I know they iterated through a lot of different approaches, and I actually talked to them about ad auctions back in 2007, a long time ago. But eventually, they converged to what seems like a totally obvious idea, which is, you go on Amazon, you search for jeans, and they show you ads for jeans, right? So you go on New York Times and you see ads for something that you have no interest in, and that's, a tricky business. But this one is really straightforward. Same thing as Google AdWords, same thing as, Overture Go that invented this 25 years ago. And it's incredibly profitable. It's very privacy respecting, right? So unlike Facebook that needs to know a lot about me to show me relevant ads, when Amazon doesn't need to know much because I just told it I'm looking for jeans, so why not show me jeans? And the challenge there is that to build an auction system like that actually requires quite a bit of skill and knowledge and engineering and economics and game theory and auction theory. And while Amazon can, of course, afford this, other players either can't afford this. It's very hard to build a team that can do that, and also it takes a long time. So even large companies that could, in principle, build something like this, it would take them many years to do it. A good example is Instacart. They did manage to build a very successful ad auction business, but it took them many years and, tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars just to get it off the ground. And so, I started talking to Francisco, who was actually in my MBA class, one of the first my MBA classes. And then he brought in Regina, who he worked with at Hopin, and he said, look, this is the best product person I've ever seen. We have to bring her in. And we decided that we're going to build Topsort and build this ad auction system and offer it as a service. And, that's where we are. We keep getting more and more marketplaces that say, yeah, that's a great idea. Please bring this cash printing press to us because, unlike a lot of other service providers, we actually come to you and say, just let us build this for you and you will start generating cash. You don't need to pay us. We will bring this cash printing machine to you. So that's basically what Topsort does.
Michael, we're going to talk about the co-founders a little bit later, but actually let's talk about it straight away now because I think it's fitting to continue once we've started. So tell me so obviously they were guys that you knew before. Well, one of them was a guy that you knew before he was in your class. How did this work out? Sometimes it's very difficult to find co-founders that match, yeah? You've been going for 2.5 years, I think, now at Topsort.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to find co-founders which just match together, and how do your skills link up with each other?
Well, so let me answer, how we found each other. As I mentioned, Francisco, I've known him for, 15 years, maybe even more than that. He was in my class and we stayed in touch, and we actually talked about, business along the way. And he's actually, he is a bit unusual. He was an MBA student, but he is our CTO. He's very technical. He's an engineer. He actually likes to build stuff. He likes to code stuff. And so, finding him was a pretty natural thing. And again, I've talked to him for a long time. And with Regina, didn't know in Topsort, but Francisco, had worked with her. So I think the story is pretty standard where, we've known each other before. It's not like, I posted an ad on Craigslist saying, looking for a co-founder. So I think it's, it's always better to do things with people you've had some experience with before. And then in terms of skills, I think they're highly complementary. I think we have very different skill set. I mean, some of them overlap, but, in terms of, my skill set, obviously the economics, the subject matter, the auctions, the experience in this particular niche. So I think that's kind of my contribution. Regina, as I mentioned, she's our CEO. She's an amazing executive. She's great at keeping, everything running on time, at motivating people. She's also very good at product, right? So one of our core principles is because these things can get very complicated very quickly. And we want our product to be very easy to use for both marketplaces and advertisers. So we want all the user interfaces to be very, very simple. And she's very good at that as well. And then Francisco is just fantastic at building and maintaining really large, complicated systems. He used to run a very large engineering group at Groupon. He sold his earlier startup to them, and then for several years he ran that. So he is just, our engineering genius. And, we advertise just how low our latency is. Our requests go back and forth in under 5 milliseconds, and that's due to Francisco and his org. So yeah, I think these are very complementary skills.
Let's go back to what is it kind of you're offering out of the market? So what is Topsport's unique offering for marketplaces and retailers? What's the unique offering that you've got there?
Yeah, so I think the unique offering is that, we come to a marketplace and we say, look, here is this gold mine that's, one of the best business models in the history of the world, that's responsible for all of the profits at Google, that's, responsible for this huge growth at Amazon, at Instacart, and a few others. We actually have quite a few case studies on our website of various marketplaces that have started generating large amounts of money from advertising. And again, I want to emphasize that this advertising, it's not, sometimes advertising has a negative connotation when people start thinking like, oh, I'm watching a show on Netflix, and they're now introducing a new ad tier, and it's going to be potentially irrelevant, or it's so annoying. Or I'm reading Facebook, and like here I get this weight loss ad. These ads are very, very different. They're relevant. They're ads for things that you are looking for, and for things that are already offered in the marketplace. And our offering is we can build this for you in a really short amount of time. So we've now, for some marketplaces, we can integrate our system literally in 1 day. We figured out how to do it. Not for everyone, but for a lot of them, because we basically, what we figured out, that's, you were asking what skills, this is something Francisco and his team figured out, how they use, basically 1 day, not for everyone, so I don't want to clean every single marketplace, but but for relatively standard type of retailer in the marketplace, we just basically what we do is we take a user's request, we channel it through a Topsort system, we send back the results to the marketplace, and what we do is we send back the same results as they would have otherwise generating. So it's kind of a pretty transparent pass-through, but then on top of it, we add the ads. So with a few lines of JavaScript, we can do that. And so that's pretty unique. But another thing that's unique, and that, this is something that we're really proud of. So I already talked about the simplicity of how easy it is to use for the advertiser, and that actually required a ton of work. So if you try to go and advertise your company on Google AdWords, like everyone should try to do it, it's just an incredibly difficult experience. Like even if you know what you're doing, it just gets overwhelming very quickly. And there is a whole industry of consultants who work, who try to help you, who sort of basically whose job is to help you navigate this, user interface on Google AdWords. And, of course, Google can afford to do that because they're Google, they're monopolists, you're going to use them no matter what. And our insight was that, in some of our clients that's not necessarily the case, and they want to make it super easy for the vendors and the service providers to advertise. And the way we achieve that is we allow these vendors and advertisers to specify just the basic parameters of their campaign, like how much money do they want to spend, like the budget, the duration of the campaign, the products they want to promote, and that's it. And then on the inside, we have auto bidding mechanisms, like a lot of sophisticated sort of AI style solutions that learn how to bid on their behalf and achieve good results. And of course, they don't have to trust us on this because we tell them all of the results, right? Like after 2 weeks, we report. Actually, we do it in real time. But we like to say 2 weeks, give the system time to learn. It shows how many impressions you got, how many clicks you got, how many conversions, how much money you generated. So, it's not like we're telling us, oh, just trust us, that's our auto bidder is magical. We're telling them, well, it is magical, and you can see the results by checking the progress. So I think that's pretty unique. I think
Yes.
that's pretty unique because again, this is something we were able to do by benefiting from like 20 years of industry experience and mistakes, and some of the top companies do have similar systems, but for a marketplace that doesn't have expertise in ads, it would be virtually impossible to build this in a reasonable amount of time.
Michael, you tell me, you were speaking there obviously about how you're using AI. Expand on that for me a little bit, because obviously Topsport's only been going on for the last 2.5 years, and AI has taken off incredibly since then and continuing to now. How have you used it, and how are you planning to use it even more so?
Yeah, so let me talk about how we have used it and how we're planning to use it. So, the AI that kind of exploded in the last, let's say, year, a few months, I was saying it's generative AI. It's the AI where, it can generate text, it can generate images, it can sort of do these magical things. And we're not using that part yet, although I can tell you a bit about how we're thinking of doing that. But where the kind of AI that we do use is more the kind of AI think about, AlphaZero, AlphaGo, where, AI systems learn how to play complicated games. Humans used to be better at chess, humans used to be better at Go, and then these AI, game playing systems figured out, learned how to beat humans at those games. So these auto bidders that we have internally, they're in the same spirit. It's that type of AI that says, okay, here are the parameters I'm trying to optimize. Here's an auction. How should I bid in this auction in order to achieve good results for the advertisers? And it has an objective function, it has data. So that kind of AI is very much what we have internally in the on the auto bidder side. We also do a lot of machine learning for predicting, because when we show ads, we want the ads to be relevant to the users. So we use past data and data from other relevant products to predict how likely is the user to be interested in the product that's being promoted. So if I have a product and you have a product, but your product is 100 times more likely to be clicked by the user than mine, then even if we bid a similar amount, even if I bid a little bit more than you, we're going to show your ad because it's going to be more relevant to the user. And that to estimate these probabilities, a lot of machine learning goes into that. So that's kind of more classical machine learning, classical AI. In terms of generative AI, we're working on thinking about using it and how we can use it. And one way we can use it is actually to generate ads, right? So right now, a lot of the time we just advertisers will upload their banners to us, or we just take existing results and promote them up higher on the page. In principle, we could use generative AI to kind of generate these relevant ads on the fly, both images and text. We're not doing that yet, but it's very much on the roadmap.
Tell me, with your experience in economics, I think you said 20 years that you've been teaching economics. How long did you say? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, so 20 years ago that I've been working on on specifically on advertising auctions. So I got my PhD in 2005. So
Okay.
I've been at Stanford teaching for 18 years.
Okay. Wow. Nice. So with that in mind, how are you leveraging economics and auction theory in your platform?
So, it's fundamental to everything we do. Let's put it this way. It's it's not just we're leveraging it, because one of the key differences of an auction-based ad system from kind of more traditional, negotiation-based ad system is that we are kind of equilibrating supply and demand in real time. So kind of a more standard way to place ads, kind of, first generation is, I want to place ads on your website. I pick up the phone or send you an email and you say, okay, like for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to show your ad. Okay, well, for the next 2 months, and here's the amount of money you have to pay. And then 3 days later, someone else calls you and you say, well, sorry, I can't put your ad because I already, put Mike's ad. And then, next month you say, clearly I was undercharging, because I had more demand than supply. So let me raise the prices. And now no one comes. Right, and now you have empty space that's unfilled, and so you can sort of try to do it manually for a relatively small property, but once you have, marketplace with tons of different keywords and pages and areas, it just becomes unsustainable. And this is where auctions really come into play, because they resolve this, demand and supply imbalance in real time. When there are more bidders who are interested in showing their ads on a particular category, prices will go up. When there are fewer, prices will go down. And to build an auction system that A, does that, B, is scalable, so can actually maintain this for lots and lots of potential users and bidders, and also incorporate things like, relevance of the ads, right? So it's not just who bids more, it's also how relevant the different products are. So putting all of this together is, there is a lot of, auction theory going into that. It's not just, here is, case for AirPods and, whoever is going to offer the most is going to get it. The principle is the same, but actually building a system that can operate on a huge scale. And another thing that we're very proud of is that we built a system that can be used by a wide variety of retailers and marketplaces. So it's not just one use case. So we have, B2B marketplaces where there are very few clicks per day, but each click can be in hundreds of dollars. And so that has challenges in terms of relatively little amount of data, but that's kind of very easy in terms of engineering, because, this just the volume of requests is not that high. And then on the opposite end, we have, a marketplace like Poshmark that has relatively low value per click, but then it has just, thousands and thousands of clicks, in every short interval of time. So there we really have a much bigger challenge kind of engineering wide, but then on the data side, it's actually easier for us to estimate because we just have so much data. And our system kind of, when we built it, we had those use cases in mind, not those specific names, but kind of the same principle that it has to adapt to both kind of extremes in terms of both infrastructure and learning and data and all of that.
Michael, you said that obviously it gives you more challenges with the engineering and the infrastructure there. So with this in mind, how big is your team, your engineering team?
So, senior on 40-ish people right now, the whole, the whole Topsort, a bit under 50. And on the top of my head, I would say probably about half of them are engineers. So it's a pretty sizable team. But at the same time, we obviously use all the modern technologies that allow us to scale quickly, something that, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible. We would need to hire people to run data centers and this and that. And now, using various cloud tools, we can scale up very quickly. Obviously, the architecture required a lot of thinking so that when we get more demand, we can just, turn on more cloud servers. But, and that's where a lot of our engineering effort goes into. But yeah.
With your engineering, were you very, let's say, picky with who you chose to be your engineers? Do you stay located only in the San Francisco area where you can be maybe in a team, or do you stay in the States, or are you worldwide? I've seen that I don't know if it's working in plus 35 countries or if it's on your website it says plus 35 countries, but I wasn't quite sure if it meant your staff or if it meant where you'd be marketing. Tell me a little bit more about that and the engineering side. Are your engineering side, are they worldwide or are they located in San Francisco with you?
So excellent questions. You actually asked multiple questions in one. So let me kind of unpack them one by one. So in terms of, are we picky with our engineers? We're incredibly picky. Like, our engineers are just really top notch. They're just amazing. And again, because we need them to be amazing, because we need this product that's scalable, that's, easy to maintain, that, can support multiple use cases. Now, having said that, they're not local. What allows us to be so picky is that they are, in fact, located in a lot of different places worldwide. And the way it happened, we started during COVID. Like, we're a COVID baby. And so when we started, everything was fully remote. So, Francisco was here in the Bay Area, but Regina, our CEO, she's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, on the other end of the country. And a lot of our engineers are, are all over the world. We have quite a few engineers in Chile. So Francisco is from, so he has some connections there from some of his earlier projects. We have engineers in Turkey. We have engineers in Israel. It's really, we really are a remote first company, not by design. It's not like we said, okay, we're going to build a remote first company. It's just that, when we started working, that was the only way to do it. Now, the upside of that is that it's actually very easy for us to work with clients worldwide. So just like, on the engineering side, we're a remote first company, in terms of working with potential clients, we're completely agnostic about where they are. They can, as long as they have a fast internet connection, we can have sort of a Zoom or, call with them. It works fine. So when you said, we're working with in 35 plus countries, that is talking about the marketplaces where Topsort runs. So that is about. Okay, and again, we're probably I would need to think, but probably we're at this point on all continents, or maybe almost all. So we're definitely worldwide. Yeah, and part of the reason, again, if you think about this logic of the product, is sort of anything that has a search box, and the results of the search want to be promoted to the top, is a potential productive client for Topsort, a productive partnership, because we can easily build a system that would allow vendors to promote that.
Michael, you said there that all the co-founders are located in different areas as well, sometimes. How often do you get together, and how important is it to get together? Or are you able to produce, as you have over the last 2.5 years, a successful startup working remotely completely? Or do the co-founders have to get together frequently? What do you do?
So it's a good question. I think we will work mostly, we definitely work mostly remotely. But we do every now and then, once every few months, we do get together. So we've had a couple of offsites. Last week, all three of us were together at this wonderful online marketplaces conference in Miami, where interesting marketplaces, but then, potential partners for Topsort. And I think these cadence where you work remotely, but every now and then you get together, and then if you have other people working in the same geographical area, you also get together in person, kind of to reinvigorate the human connection. I think it works really well. I'm not sure we would be able to build everything if we just, for 3 years, all 40-ish people were sitting separately in their, apartments and never seeing, another coworker. That's probably wouldn't work. Although, I don't know, but probably wouldn't work. But this cadence where, we mostly work like that, but, every now and then we get together and discuss things in person, I think it works really well.
Tell me, Michael, what has been the biggest and most significant pivot you have made over the last 2.5 years? Has there been one?
It's pretty amazing. Actually, we just talked about this last week. We did not have to pivot at all. Like what we're doing right now, if you go on our website, it's probably safe somewhere on the Internet Archive. We're doing exactly the same thing right now as what we were planning to do initially. Now, there have been some tweaks where price our product, what exactly we offer, exactly the ad systems work, what type of auctions we're on, but these are more detailed. I think the core idea has not changed. I think the reason is, as I mentioned, so for marketplaces, this is sort of the best business model in the world. Google is benefiting from it, Amazon is benefiting from it. So, this idea that let's just help marketplaces get this amazing revenue stream that's, almost entirely pure margin, right? There are very few revenue streams that of products where almost all of your revenue is profit, and this is one of them. So helping marketplaces realize that has been a very very successful idea, and I did not have to pivot. And actually, this brings up what I wanted to talk about. I mentioned this earlier. I'd like to be able to circle back. I said that the latest slowdown was actually highly beneficial for us. And that is for two reasons. So one reason is that, some marketplaces that, initially would say, oh, we're just going to hire a bunch of, money is cheap. So we're going to hire all the people in the world we need, and we'll just build it ourselves. And, we don't need some, a third party. Suddenly, their budgets are much tighter. And this idea that, oh, we're just going to throw, 50 people to build our own product becomes less attractive. So that's one. But the other thing that happened in the last, year and a half is that suddenly people care about revenue again, right? When money is cheap, and, you can go and raise, a bunch of money just based on a PowerPoint deck and serve, investors, interest rates are zero. When you come to marketplace and say, here is another profitable revenue stream, they're like, well, revenue, who cares about revenue? It's all about growth. And suddenly when investors say, no, wait a second, interest rates are now very different, money is tight, can you actually generate revenue? Suddenly a lot of marketplaces start looking around, and then they realize that what we do is just this amazing revenue opportunity for them that's, easy to build, that's not destructive to their brand, that's actually complementary to the relevance of their marketplaces, and, that becomes much, much more attractive. So,
Nice.
even with the latest kind of massive change in the macro conditions, but we did not have to pivot.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Okay, Michael, just a few more questions for you here. So
Sure.
how does Topsort envision the future of retail media in terms of identity-led approaches versus product-based behavior data?
That's a very good question. So our bread and butter is definitely product-based advertising, right? Because this is the one that's incredibly consistent with all the privacy regulations, both by governments and various platforms. It's relevant, and we don't need to spy on our users, right? We're really like product-based advertising. Now, having said that, there are use cases where you can actually provide high quality identity-based advertising. I think one of the things happening in the industry right now is they're trying to explore ways to generate such advertising, so identity-based advertising, without using an invasive third-party cookies. Right? Maybe you opt into receiving some information, or maybe it's much more contained. It's like you don't just cross-share, these cookies across everyone everywhere. And we're definitely keeping an eye on that. And so, when we see ways to show these type of identity-based advertising that's not invasive, that's compliant with regulations, we're definitely open to doing things like that. We have a couple of initiatives that we're working on in that direction. But our starting point, our bread and butter, is definitely product-based advertising.
Okay, very nice. Michael, two questions. These ones are a little bit more personal and your personal experience in career. Tell me, what has been... No, let me change this to a different one. If you could have known one thing when you started out 2.5 years ago, which you now know 2.5 years in, what would it be that you didn't know then, obviously?
That's an interesting question. I guess one thing that I learned that was sort of fascinating to learn and interesting is just how fast everything moves. I think the speed is something that, initially when I was starting out, I was thinking about this kind of as a more kind of system, business model type thing, and kind of auction systems, and then taking a more in a big picture approach. And then once you get into the weeds, just how fast you need to run was quite a learning, but it's it's a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And last question for you, Michael. What would be, we've got obviously many other founders that watch this podcast, and many other aspiring founders. What would be your one piece of advice for a newly started out founder on their tech startup? What would be the piece of advice you would offer them?
I think the piece of advice, I guess, again, you ask for one, I'll probably answer with two, but they're related. Make sure you work with people you like working with. and make sure you're working on the problem you're enjoying working on. Don't do it just to do a startup. Pick people you enjoy working with and pick a problem or product space that you're, I think saying you're passionate about is a bit cliche, but I would just say that you actually enjoy when you wake up in the morning, you actually have fun thinking about the problem that your startup is trying to solve.
And you do?
Absolutely. Look, I've been working on it for 20 years. This is something that I clearly have a lot of fun doing.
Perfect. Michael, thank you so much for coming on, everybody. Michael Ostrovsky, co-founder of Topsort. Michael, it's been great to pick your brain. Thank you very much. And wish you and the company all the success in the future.
Thank you. Bye-bye.